قل قد ذهبت أربابه كل من سار على الدرب وصل في ازدياد العلم إرغام العدا وجمال العلم إصلاح العمل جمل المنطق بالنحو فمن يحرم الإعراب بالنطق اختبل انظم الشعر ولازم مذهبي في اطراح الرفض لا تبغي النحل.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome to this episode of Ibn Battuta's Boat. Alhamdulillah, Ibn Battuta's Boat is a podcast in which we are trying to show and expose the discussions that British Muslims are talking about in their daily lives. These could be topics to do with studying the deen, these could be topics to do with education, this could be to do with philosophy, it could be to do with religion. And we want to try and take these daily kind of conversations out into the open with some specialized speakers who know what they're talking about, have them here and really delve into what they are specialists in and really kind of get this discussion to be open up much more. And that's what we're doing on this podcast. Previous episodes, we've had guests such as Ustad Ashraf Dabous from Lewisham Mosque, Imam Shakil Beg, Ustad Khalid Hassan, Sheikh Abu Ubaid, Abdul Samad, who's a student. So we've had a wide variety of topics, of speakers, and today Asim here is going to explain what we have covered with our speaker, brother Ayman.
Yeah, so today, alhamdulillah, we were blessed with a speaker, Ayman Sebazzi. He was recently graduated from King's College in London, and he's a professional dentist. He's a practicing dentist in the general practice at the moment. And but during his time at university, he developed a love towards philosophy of religion and science, atheism, and generally to go to find the truth between all of these confusing topics and stuff like that. So you'll find in this episode quite a lot of deep material in how he countered these narratives and these sort of arguments that were brought forth from imperialistic people, and not only like imperialism itself, isn't it, and stuff like that. So one of the things he talks about, for example, is modern philosophy and how Islam addresses some of the problems of modern philosophy. For example, the concepts that make up the fitrah. He talked about good versus evil. He talked about purpose, the concept of me or I, and how it's heavily entwined with the concept of the ruh itself to give its purpose. He talked about reason, the concept of using our reason and how this is part of the fitrah. He talks about the ability to recognize and to see and to appreciate beauty itself. And finally, he talked about the idea of free will and predestination and these kind of topics, qadr. So it generally touches on these topics, but you'll find with the discussion that we have is in a format that you'll appreciate, and it's very much discussion based. And we go back and forth, and we try to use analogy to try come to terms with what the topics he's talking about. And we hope that you take benefit from this and you are empowered from the discussions that take place, inshallah ta'ala. Empowered, yeah. You see what
Subhanallah. So please do make sure that you are following us on our social medias. We have our website, ibnbattutasboat.com, which you can listen to these episodes, and you can also download the episodes. Our social medias on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram is Ibn Battuta's Boat as well, where you can comment, give us some feedback, and just follow what we're doing, inshallah. So please do follow us, and please do also remember to follow our sponsors and our supporters, Huda Television, Huda TV. Find them on social media, find them on Facebook and YouTube. They are a channel which have shows and programs which relate to the youth, which relate to Muslims, which relate to non-Muslims. They cover a wide variety of topics in a very professional manner, and they have very beneficial content. So please do check them out, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Hope you enjoy. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back.
Just us two, man. You don't have to
everyone. Okay, fine. You guys. We've got brother Ayman here with us, and inshallah today's going to be quite an interesting episode. It's going to be covering some things which we've wanted to cover for quite a while, to be honest. We wanted to discuss this on the podcast for quite a while. Topics relating to doubts about the religion, topics relating to philosophy, and kind of getting into the questions that maybe a young person who's practicing the religion may have as they started delving deeper into the religion. Somebody who feels like, you know, the religion isn't just something which was passed down to me from my parents, but it's something that is something serious. And if it is something serious, then certain things need to be questioned, things that don't make sense to me. Me personally, I've had that kind of journey where I've got to a point where I was reading a lot into, you know, different philosophies, different religions, and comparing that to Islam and seeing how does Islam really compare to the rest of the kind of ideas in the world. So I think it would be a very good chance for us to kind of introduce that topic through our brother Ayman. Inshallah, we get to know him and his journey a little bit more as well. So I think first thing, we just want to go into a little bit of background about yourself so people can get to know you and we can get to know you. Because my first time meeting you, I think you've met him.
Yeah, we met once.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Proper coincidence at that event.
Yeah, that was coincidence.
What was it?
It was Sheikh Jamal invited us down.
Oh, yeah.
That thing.
Yeah, I didn't get to
But
go
I met
to
one
that.
of the other brother who does it.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
Muhammad.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We met on the train randomly during Ramadan.
No way.
Literally, I was coming back from Slough and I just met him on the train and we started talking. And like 2 weeks later, we were in the masjid together. I didn't think I'd ever see him again.
Well, so we were on the train, just randomly started talking to him.
So we were on the train. I was on the train just reading Quran, and
Okay,
then he came on. He clocked that I was reading Quran. He started reading Quran. So we're both like, okay, assalamu alaikum.
That's
this
just a
and that,
Muhammad thing to do.
literally. And then I was just chatting to him, and then we were just like, okay, assalamu alaikum. See you later. 2 weeks later or whatever, we just met again in that masjid. It's proper coincidence. I was like, wait, you're that guy. You're that guy. So yeah.
Subhanallah, that's amazing.
Anyway, random question here. You know when you read Quran on the train?
Yeah.
Like, how do you find it? Like, do you get any mixed reactions? Do you get any weird instances where people are like?
Not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not really.
London's calm like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was reading on the way here. I had my mushaf on me, and I always try and look out for this. I try and look out for is anybody looking at me weird, you know. Especially if I've got the full kind of dress code on, like I've got my jubba on and everything. Yeah, I'm like, okay, there must be people looking at me. But alhamdulillah, it doesn't. It's okay, you know. It doesn't really happen.
They're probably a bit woke, so they'll be like, you know, oh, that's Arabic language and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This looks a bit, you know,
Yeah.
hipsterish in a way. You know, it
One
looks like art.
one brother I know did get caught like that once. Like I think somebody said to him, like, what are you reading or something like that.
Ooh.
But
was he actually carrying a mushaf or was it on
he was actually carrying a mushaf.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Maybe, yeah. But then he was just like, well, what's bothering you about it? Is it the noise? Because there's people like over there talking.
Oh, was he actually reading out loud?
Like just like
To
sort of
himself.
to himself,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But then someone was like, oh, you're making too much noise. And then he was like, wait, but those people over there are like having a conversation louder than what I'm talking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's the only incident.
Only
I've had
incidents,
here,
you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
People in London are quite good.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
I think there was one time. I mean, it's a bit different, but there was like an Islamophobic incident on the train with a sister, and I was there. And the particular after kind of, I don't want to go into the incident. After the kind of incident, it wasn't like physical violence; it was just shouting at each other.
Yeah.
After the incident, kind of when the sister got off the train, that person who was a woman, she was still on the train, and I was standing near the sister, so I stayed where I was after the sister got off. It was a Friday. I had like a thobe on, and like and then I had my Quran in my hand as well. And then I was just reading, and then she looks at me because she knew that I was like, you know, like trying to help the sister out in terms of after.
Sounds like a romance story, bro.
Okay. Definitely was.
Bro, don't say that on the pod.
Okay.
Don't say it on the pod.
You get in trouble.
Does your wife listen to your episodes?
Sometimes.
It's too
No,
early.
no,
Edit that part out,
she knows about this incident. She knows about this incident. It's fine. So obviously after I kind of, you know, I just talked to the sister to make sure she was okay. Yeah, I didn't do anything. Right,
course,
it wasn't
course.
on night in shining armor or whatever.
You're like, ukhti, nah, yeah. Ukhti fillah. No, I'm joking. I know this
Anyway,
is
yeah.
what Ayman's
So
doing.
the point that I was trying to make is that this woman that was giving the Islamophobic abuse, she was still on the train. I was on the train. I took out my mushaf and I started reading. So I was on the way to the masjid.
Coincidentally, or was it just?
No, because I was reading because it was Friday. I was reading Surah Kahf or whatever, right?
Okay.
So then, after she does her whole rant to this other woman and to the sister, and the sister gets off, she turns to me and she's like, "Look at you reading your book, thinking that you're so pious. He like watched me like gouge your eyes out or something. Da, da, da. I don't know. Yeah, it was a bit crazy. I reported it anyway to the police and etc.
Was she drunk, by the way?
No. I think she had some mental illness though. Honestly, I think she did because people just don't do that kind of stuff randomly. But yeah, that's I've had that kind of incident. But other than that, it's been alright. Anyway, that's a bit off topic. So I wanted to get into you yourself, brother Ayman. You know, I want to get into your background. What do you do as a profession?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. My profession at the moment, I'm a dentist. I graduated last year from King's College.
I shouldn't smile so much then from a dentist. get refuted, you know what I mean?
No, you're doing all right. You're both okay. You're both all right, don't worry. I've actually been looking, so...
Is it?
Yeah.
No,
it's just by default, I just do it now.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, I graduated last year. I did dentistry, alhamdulillah. I've been working for the last year.
Is it true what they say, like dentists,
what?
Like it's a really, like, obviously it's a well-paid job, but apparently it's a bit boring. I don't know. Is that what they say?
No, to be honest, it depends what you do.
Like, what do you do in your dentistry field?
Well, this last year I was just doing general practice, so just a bit of everything really.
Yeah.
Next year I'm working in a hospital, so it's a bit more exciting. So there's a speciality within dentistry which is like a crossover between medicine and dentistry called maxillofacial surgery, which is basically where people like they do like facial reconstructions, and like if people have cancer in their head and neck, they do the operations and stuff like that. So I'll be working in that in hospital next year.
Okay.
So like that's
what
more
are the
interesting
different
to me
fields
than
you
general
get in?
practice.
What are the different fields you get?
So that's just one speciality within dentistry or medicine. So to do that, you have to be qualified in medicine and dentistry. I've obviously done dentistry, but you can still get posts in it as well.
Okay.
But to be officially qualified in it, you have to have both.
How can you have both? That's like 10 years studies.
Yeah, people do it. I know people who've done it.
That is great. Do you like literally like you start off with one and go straight into the other? Or
yeah, usually it's like people, they do one, then they're not really satisfied with one, then they go and do the other as well. It's usually like that.
The pay has to be above 60 to make that anything worth doing.
Yeah, definitely. It's don't worry. It's
well
above that. It's way above that. It's way above that. Not that I'm not me personally. I'm just doing my first year. But when you get to that level,
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's just that's what I'll be doing next year. But there's lots of different specialities. Personally, for me, general practice, like, there were good and there were bads to it, to be honest. So
what made you wanna go into the industry? Was it like
told me to do it?
Yeah, that's okay. You said because you said you're half Pakistani, you're half Lebanese.
No.
So was it the Pakistani side of your family? Just like, you must be a dentist.
No. To be fair, my mom was born and brought up here anyway. Okay. To be fair, no. To be honest, it was just like for me, I was either going to do medicine or dentistry. Like, I always knew that.
MashaAllah.
Okay, I just picked dentistry because it seemed like a better lifestyle afterwards, like in terms of family life, time off. Yeah.
You can do part-time as well, isn't it? They give you the whereas if you want to become an actual doctor, you don't really have the opportunity to do part-time.
No, you can do part-time in medicine as well, but the training pathway is a bit longer.
Okay. Yeah. So you thought like with dentistry, it would be a bit easier in terms of taking that.
Yeah, once you're graduated, the pathway's it's made a bit easier for you. Yeah.
So you're a doctor, Ayman Sebazzi.
I just tell people to call me Ayman. Even my patients, I don't quite tell them.
Is it because of the stigma attached between dentists saying they're not, or people saying dentists aren't doctors?
No, personally, I just feel uncomfortable with people calling me doctor. I don't really like it.
So, but that's your official title, like if it's on your passport.
So do you have permission to put it on this podcast?
Yeah, we can put doctor.
You can do what you want.
To make it thiqa, yani, to make it.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like people are like, whoa, we've got a doctor. You know what I'm saying?
Get all the Asian demographics to listen to it as well. Do you know what I mean?
All right, no problem. If that's what it's for, yeah.
That's interesting. Your background. So what part is Pakistani? What part is Lebanese?
So my mom's from Pakistan. My dad's from Lebanon originally.
Okay, but you said they were both brought up here.
No, my mom was born and brought up here. She was born actually in Slough.
Okay, wow. So is that where you still live?
No. I live in South London. London. So my mom was born and brought up here. My dad came here when he was about like mid-20s. He came here for his masters and he's sort of been here since.
Okay, mashallah.
Yeah.
You got brothers and sisters as well?
Yes, I have 2 siblings, 2 younger sisters.
Okay, so you're the eldest?
I'm the eldest, yeah.
Oh, responsibilities.
Are you the eldest as well, no?
No, I'm the youngest.
Yeah. You probably get spoiled, man.
I got spoiled.
Yeah, I got spoiled. Growing up, I definitely got spoiled.
100%. I got pampered.
Yeah. That's like with my little sister. She's like super spoiled. She gets everything. She's the baby, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, you can't complain.
The thing you're going to ask, isn't it? How did you get from all this, like, dentistry? It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, that's exactly
the topics you got here is, for example, is doubts, science, religion, and fitrah. Like,
Yeah.
How does that all happen?
Where did that?
To be honest, it's more of just a passion project. To be honest, for me, I don't have any. As I was telling you brothers earlier, I don't actually have any formal qualifications in any of it. It's just my own personal reading.
But you have associations in the sense that you have brothers who are doing da'wah and certain things, like era, for example.
No, as I'm not officially tied to them or anything like that in any way, shape, or form. I just know some of the brothers there. That's it. Yeah, I talk to them now and then, but no, I'm not officially linked to them in any way, shape, or form at all.
So this became kind of like a personal project.
Yeah, it's just a personal project for me, really. I just read books by myself. In those,
how do you find that
topics.
time with being a dentist and that, or university?
To be honest, a lot of the reading I did, a large chunk of it was at university. At university, obviously, you muck around quite a lot. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure. Obviously, you lot are really studious, so I'm sure you're not the same as me.
No,
I mucked around a lot too.
In university, I just found that I just had a lot of free time, so I'd spend a lot of time basically just reading.
Yeah, you only realise after.
Yeah,
you had free time.
Definitely. Yeah.
You feel like when you're in it, you're like, like I'm too busy. I've got this and that, whatever, and then you realise after actually.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. That's one piece of advice I'd give people going into university is, don't waste the time. Seriously, you're gonna find, like, even me, I've experienced it this year. Working, like, literally takes you out of it. You get home and you're just like, I just want to finish. That's it. I'm done. You have to kind of force yourself. Whereas at university, you've got a lot more energy. You've got free time in between. Like anything you want to get done, anything that you have a passion in, get it done at university. Like, because you have so much time.
Nowadays, is people aren't really going to university unless it's for specialised degrees. They're too smart now. They know that this apprenticeships are doing that.
That's true. But if you do go to university, there you go. That's what I'm saying.
So did it start in university having this passion of reading into like philosophy and?
Yeah, it started at university. I've always been interested in it, but the majority of my reading I did it at university.
Okay.
What triggered you? Is there like a story behind it?
So with me, as you were saying earlier as well, like I always practiced Islam, but I never really looked into why I do believe in it, to be honest.
Okay.
So for me, it was more, I wanted that sort of confirmation that what I'm doing is the right thing, and that what I believe is the right thing.
Right.
And because I always had that sort of inquisitive nature, I just started reading into it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like at university.
So when you say right thing, do you mean like ultimate truth? Or
exactly, like ultimate truth, because no one had ever taught me that, to be honest. No one had ever sat me down and said Islam is the right way because of this, this, and this. Some people don't need it, as I said. Like most people go through their whole lives without needing it. That's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. To be honest, that would probably be easier. Yeah, exactly. But some people,
do you think maybe maybe they're losing something from it though? Like in the sense that you having those doubts and being able to question them and go further and further gives you some sort of, it gives you more of a oomph, gives you more of a kind of a deeper understanding or more of an appreciation. Whereas that person who was able to not have those doubts and just able to live it out, maybe they didn't. Maybe that sort of passion isn't there.
I can't really speak for other people. For me personally, I definitely know that before I started looking more into it. And after I started looking more into it, I definitely have a lot more like motivation afterwards, and I'm more motivated to like spread it to other people and spread basically the dawah. Basically, it gives me a lot more motivation to do it. For me, this is for me personally. I can't speak for other people.
Okay.
You know, like for
everyone's. What I've noticed talking to a lot of brothers is everybody like has their own internal like journey.
Okay.
Like different people will come to it in different ways. Some people come to it in the way similar to I did. Other people come in it in a completely different way. So everyone's got their own journey when they come towards Islam, basically.
But a point to add to that is that, for example, that as they say, the deen is wasi', something that's encompassing, all encompassing, and like I think that when it comes to like when people try to find their own purpose, especially when they arrive at their own conclusions themselves, that's far more better for that individual than to be spoon-fed and then not to reflect over that, or not to reflect on that knowledge. And people who are spoon-fed, they're under the impression and they're under the guise that they've found a certain level of certainty. But there is ultimately, you have to break all barriers and you have to question it yourself. And I feel like that sort of like not self-prophecy, I mean, but like you actually actively sitting down and saying, I'm going to look into this. It's a bit like, you know, when they say, come, we're going to have a reminder on Iman and Yaqeen. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, it's a bit like that. It's like you're looking for that certainty. You're looking for Yaqeen. You're looking for But obviously this is on a much more relative level. Like, for example, maybe what they talk about is just some hadith from a book or something, and that's very important as well. But you actually looking at the issues that are currently facing you right now, just observe empirically visible, and you're looking at that and you're saying, well, you know, I haven't got answers for this. I need to find the answers for this.
Yeah.
That sort of critical thinking, I feel, is one thing that Muslims need to have, especially in the day and age where there's so much distractions, so much complexity, and just trying to make sense of that is really important.
Definitely. I would put a disclaimer on it though, is that I don't think necessarily it's suitable for all people to go into this kind of stuff. Yeah. The reason I went into it is because I had the questions. They just naturally came to me. It's not because I went looking for anything like that. They just naturally came to me. Like,
why would you defer people or not have that disclaimer just to certain people?
Because, you know, like some people, they might go down the wrong path with it or something like that. Alhamdulillah, like for me, I can only just put it down to Allah. That's it, really. I can only put it down to Allah. Like, it wasn't due to my intellect, nothing like that. That's my conclusion out of all of it, is that, alhamdulillah, guidance only comes from Allah at the end of the day. But yeah, like Imam Ghazali, he makes like a good point. He wrote a book, and he went through like a similar journey. It's called Deliverance from Error. It's quite a famous book, actually. It's quite small. It's famous, and it documents basically his journey. It's sort of autobiographical.
Yeah, I've read that one.
You've read it, yeah. It's quite a nice little book. But in it, he talks about like when he went through it, and he says like philosophy, in terms of like Western philosophy, it's not for everyone. For some people, it's like a medicine. For some people, it's like a disease. It's a medicine for the people who already basically have those questions, and they can't go back to what they've already known before, because it's not providing them with the answer. So now you have to go through this route. It's a disease for the people who don't have any questions in the first place. And I think that's quite a nice way to put it, basically.
That's good, actually.
Did you come across that like at the beginning and it helped guide you, or is that something you read that and you picked up the lesson from that towards the end?
I just felt that when I read that, it kind of just, it applied to me straight away. I related to that straight away. I was like, it's so true. For my experience, that was true.
Okay, so what then followed on from that, when you kind of started having those questions of, well, is this definitely right? What steps did you take to kind of tackle those and address those questions? Yeah.
So for me, number one, I was always praying. I never like stopped praying. Alhamdulillah, like Allah always kept me praying. I was always praying, always making dua. I kept reading Quran. Those things, I'm convinced that those are the things that basically guided me through it. Basically, at the end of the day. So that was the main thing. If anyone who's got these questions, anyone who's going through that sort of journey, I'd advise them with those things. Never give up the salah, never give up the Quran, and also adhkar as well. Like, make sure you stick on the adhkar as well. Those things basically will protect you a lot.
Foundations.
Definitely, those things will protect you a lot. The rest of it was literally just, to be honest, there was no structure in what I did. It was more just like, I'll read this looks interesting, onto the next one, this looks interesting, onto that. So by the end of it, I kind of had like a general sort of groundwork in a few areas.
Okay.
So
Let's go into I know that you started a blog. What's it called?
Sakina. It hasn't been updated recently, but I started it a while back. It was like my personal project.
Okay.
I need to start.
And it was the purpose of that, was it to kind of create these kind of answers to these questions?
Yeah. So when I started it, it was more like to basically share what my thoughts were basically on the topics that I had basically read through and summarize it basically all into. And to be honest, like it helps me a lot, because it makes my thoughts a lot more concise and a lot more structured basically. Because one thing that I've found as well is that when you put things into writing, your thought processes become a lot more ordered. Like, you've got all these ideas in your head, but when you try and say them, you can't say them properly. You realize you can't. You realize that when you try and say them, you can't actually say them properly. It's only when you put things onto paper and you write it out in a structured way that then your thought process becomes a bit more structured.
Do you think you've kind of done that in other spheres of your life as well?
I'm a quite methodical person. By nature, like, I'm quite like 1, 2, 3 like that. I'm not like out there like think this and that. Like, I need things in order in my mind.
Strategy.
Everything needs to be in order in my mind.
Okay. So did you have an order when you came today by any chance?
Why didn't I have an order today?
No, did you?
No, I didn't. Today's an exception.
Did you have one today?
Well, I'm pretty much like that as well. Like, I have to like plan out what I'm doing in my mind. Like everything's just one step, then that's 2 step 3. Like my mum really hates it. Like when I have conversations with her and I'm trying to, I don't know, for example, when I was getting married and I was trying to explain to her like what the process is going to be, or like how I want the day to go, or like even the process of like talking to the particular sister and getting to the point of marriage, I had like all planned out. Yeah, she hated it. She was like, just go talk, just go do that, just go do that.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that. I need like step 1, step 2, step 3. Like that's how I am. Yeah. So on that blog, what would you say is your most maybe the one particular article which you felt like that's the one I really hit the nail on the head on that particular one?
For me, and this comes after like a lot of reflection, for me was an article that I wrote about the fitrah and what it actually is.
Okay.
That's one. And also I wrote like a very small article that I need to explore a bit more, I think. It's about like the relationship between science and religion as well. Those two basically I think are where the discussion starts, basically.
Fitrah is a very interesting topic, isn't it?
Which one?
Fitrah.
Fitrah,
generally,
yeah.
I think
It's
that
quite interesting,
I think that, like, for example, the first speaker that you brought down for our podcast is Sheikh Abu Abaid.
Yeah, I watched that, mashallah. I love that Sheikh a lot.
I love his perspective.
I love that. When I watch his lectures, mashallah, tabarakallah, like it's so inspiring. Like the way he talks, he brings like a completely new perspective to it. I love his talks.
Like I was with him on the weekend before, and I was getting shura for this project and stuff, and he has this thing where he doesn't like using the same word. Over time, he will change a word to find a different. For example, beneficial. He says he doesn't like the word beneficial. He likes the word empowering. He says that beneficial is losing its meaning, because he's got a point. I think from a George Orwell book he talks about this, but which I haven't read, by the way. I haven't read. And then disclaimer. But how words lose meaning over time. That's generally how language is, isn't it? So he was like, he'd prefer to use empowering now, because it has a more better meaning towards what beneficial should mean. So he has his perspectives. Like I said, it's not. I haven't met a sheikh like that before. And when he mentioned fitrah, the first person that comes in mind when he mentioned fitrah essentially is from the UK is Sheikh Abu Abaid.
Yeah. He's got quite a lot of material on it.
Yeah,
it's good.
Tarbiyah of the fitrah is one of the modules. Yeah,
subhanAllah. It's so important for us in this society to actually have that. So, what doubt was creeping into your mind when you were going through that? Is this right? Is this wrong? Where did fitrah kind of fit in?
For me, and from what I've understood, for the fitrah is basically, a lot of people, how they understand the fitrah is that it's the natural disposition to believe in Allah. Yeah. And it is. Yeah. That's what it is. Like when it's in a summarized form, that's what it is. But there's things that feed into it as well. Okay. That basically give you that disposition to believe in God and Allah naturally.
What are those? What are some of those?
So, for example, our knowledge of what's right and wrong. That's what everyone knows. That one. Our knowledge of basically what's good, what's bad. Yeah. That's one. Our knowledge of, or our wanting to figure out what the truth is, and I'll explore this a bit more. That's one. Our ability to have free will, for example. Even the concept of a first person I, me, that feeds into fitrah, and I'll explain why in a minute as well.
Okay. Interesting.
The concept of being able to, appreciate beauty. All of these things, they all feed into the fitrah. Why? Should I go through them one by one?
Go on.
So good and bad, that's a bit of an obvious one, to be honest. Also, another thing is the wanting of humans to have a purpose. Like all of these things feed into the fitrah. Like these are where the questions basically begin. Okay. Okay. So I can explain them a bit more.
So just to pause, you kind of find that after you did that research, that you realized that when you started wanting to question and find out whether
the questions themselves that I was having pointed towards Allah, basically. Definitely.
Okay.
Is that what you're getting to?
Exactly. You sort of, after your research, you came to that conclusion. You're like, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but that was after like a lot of reflection. I was thinking, why am I even asking these questions in the first place? And you realize that those questions, the fact that you're even asking those questions and you have the ability to ask those questions, points you back to Allah.
Yeah.
So what did I say? The first one I said was, for example, good and evil.
Good and evil, yeah.
This is like so widely discussed. Everyone, I think you brothers will know about it as well. It's so widely discussed. Like, how do we know what good is, what bad is? And it's been discussed for thousands of years. And to be honest, when you take God out of the equation, when you take Allah out of the equation, nobody's actually been able to find a solution.
Yeah, it's true.
Nobody has been able to find a solution to it. Like once God is taken out, and this is why there's actually a famous philosopher, a German philosopher who lived a while back. He was called Nietzsche, and Nietzsche basically he was an atheist, but I respect him not because he's an atheist. No, not because he's an atheist. I respect him because he was honest with his views.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was an atheist, but he understood that his worldview resulted in the inability to differentiate between what's good and what's bad.
Right.
If you talk to people nowadays, for example, if you talk to people nowadays who maybe they don't believe in religion, for example, they might criticize Islam for saying, oh, it's barbaric, it's this, it's that, it's bad. Okay, but wait, hold on, take a step back. Where are you getting your concept of good and bad from even in the first place?
Yeah.
So this philosopher, Nietzsche, he understood that.
He had a book, Beyond Good and Evil?
Beyond Good and Evil, he wrote, there was another one he wrote as well called The Gay Science.
Okay.
So in The Gay Science, he has a parable. It's not really a parable, like a little story.
Okay.
I can't remember it word for word. But basically the story goes that there's somebody running around in a village and he's shouting, he's going crazy. And he's going crazy because he's basically saying, he's shouting in the village, he's shouting, God is dead, and he's going crazy. And why is he going crazy? He's going crazy because he realizes that idea of God being dead results in so many problems for society as a whole. Number one, they don't realize what good and evil is. And number two, the other thing is, which Nietzsche pointed out, was that people tend towards going into depression as well. And we see that today as well.
Right.
Because you're removing, and this is a nice segue onto one of the other points I mentioned, is you're removing purpose from people. If at the end of the day, we are just like, according to that worldview, we're just like physical particles bumping together, random, there's no order or reason to it, what's the point of it all?
Right.
Really, what is the point of it all? Whether you get the sickest job in the world or you work as a dustbin man, look, there's nothing wrong with obviously being a dustbin man, but people tend to view that as the lowest of the low in society.
They get paid decent amount of money as well.
Yeah, you do. And to be honest, they're needed. Wallahi, they're needed just as much as a doctor's needed. Imagine if there were no dustbin men in the world.
Yeah.
Actually, to be honest, I'll tell you something funny. I'm from in Lebanon, where my dad's from.
Yeah.
There was actually an episode 2 years back where the dustbin men, they refused to pick up the rubbish.
Oh, they going on strike?
They went on strike.
Yeah.
Because of the political unrest there. They couldn't, there was no elected government. To be honest, I don't really follow the politics that much, but there was some kind of problem in government.
Okay.
And the dustbin men, basically, they went on strike. Or there were no dustbin men. Bro, there's pictures of it, literally, in the mountains. There's rivers of rubbish filling up streets. The people couldn't get through streets, literally rivers of rubbish.
So for how many days did they do this?
A long time, like months.
Wow.
Months on end. So like people couldn't get through the roads.
Oh my gosh.
So like, something like as simple as that, just like you take that for granted, you see what I mean? So like, obviously, I'm just saying that that's what people perceive as to be the lowest role. Yeah. So whether you have that job, you're a doctor, whether you kill someone, whether you are the best person to someone, whether you open up a charity, whatever you do, what does it matter at the end of the day if at the end of the day we are just physical particles bumping into each other, it's all random, we all die, that's it, 6 foot in the grave. It doesn't matter at the end of the day whether you did good or whether you did bad. What's the difference?
So some people would say that, well, you know, it's to help other people, to facilitate for their life. And if I'm facilitating for them to feel good and feel better, then I feel good and I feel better. So that's what matters. What is
the okay? I would ask them, what's feeling good and what's feeling better? According to that narrative, it's just chemicals going around in the brain. Feeling good, feeling better is what? It's just particles moving around in the brain. So that's the problem. Under that worldview, everything is just reduced to your feeling of happiness, your feeling of love, your feeling of I need to have meaning, your feeling of just everything that you deem important is just reduced down to that, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And that becomes a problem. And there's something interesting. It's actually a lot of people have it. Something called a existential crisis. I forgot the word there for a minute. Existential crisis is basically where, and this is what Nietzsche had. Right. He actually went crazy at the end of his life because of it.
Most philosophers are a bit crazy, isn't it?
No, actually, wallahi, he actually went crazy at the end of his life. It's well documented that he went into depression and he was actually admitted into, from what I remember from my reading, he was actually admitted into a mental institute because of it. When you realize that there's no purpose at the end of it, you stop having motivation to do anything.
Yeah.
You stop wanting to do anything. you get depressed. The human needs a purpose. Some people would say, for example, I make my own purpose. But for me, that gives away something in the human nature, is that they still want to have a purpose. You say, I make my own purpose, but it's actually an illusion.
Yeah.
Somebody said that basically, somebody with that worldview, they want to have their cake and eat it. They want to have purpose, but at the same time, they don't want to believe in God.
Yeah.
So it's like you're building a house on unsteady foundations. Like you're saying, I have a purpose.
Yeah.
But everything underneath it screams you don't have a purpose.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So the fact that they say we make our own purpose,
it's basically masking the issue that
exactly.
they have.
It's masking the human nature that humans want to have a purpose. And by adopting that worldview, you're denying that yourself that purpose, basically. Okay, so that's another problem with it. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
So in that, everything is reduced down to nothing, basically, if you adopt that worldview. So you have two problems here. Number one is that humans know what good and bad is. That worldview tells you you don't know what good and bad is. Number two is humans want to have a purpose naturally. That worldview says you can never have an ultimate purpose.
Yeah.
There is no ultimate purpose. And what does that lead to? That leads people to kill themselves. And
Yeah.
I've always found it interesting, obviously, like, people are going to have different views on this, but for me, I've always found it interesting that people who are supposed to have everything that this society tells you is important and is the pinnacle of success. So, for example, like you see celebrities who have like money, women, fame, like they've got everything that this society tells you that is success.
Yeah.
But then they still commit suicide. They're still on
Yeah.
drugs. They still do all this madness that they're trying to basically, to me, it looks like they're trying to escape from themselves, basically.
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, what's the reason for that? Why those people, they're not happy? I don't know if you've seen recently, there's a proper guy that I remember from my childhood a lot, Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of his recent interviews?
The things he's recently said about him realizing that the fame is something that wasn't something he was supposed to chase, and it wasn't something that brought him fulfillment.
It's quite interesting.
And then when he stepped away, he started feeling
Yeah.
much more better. Yeah.
Much better, yeah. It's quite interesting. Obviously, I haven't listened to all of it.
Yeah.
But I've just seen random clips here and there, and I found that really interesting because personally, I used to like watch Ace Ventura when I was younger. I used to watch Like I remember when I was younger, I used to watch his films when I was a lot younger, and to see him say that, it's just like it confirmed to me what I had already thought.
Yeah.
Like it's so common. Like so many of them commit suicide, and I always thought, like, why is that?
So I just want to pause you there on the point of fitrah, because it was quite interesting you talking about, like, you read certain books of philosophers and you're naming philosophers and things like this. I just wanted to ask, do you think it's important for Muslims to be well grounded in that kind of reading, to actually know these things?
Yeah, as I said, I think it's not for everyone.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. For those who kind of have that.
For those who are out in da'wah, doing da'wah,
Yeah.
and they're on the front lines, yes, I think it's important.
Okay.
Because that's the historical background of where people who are not Muslim in this country are going to be asking their questions from.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to be well grounded in that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how are you going to talk to them on the same level? Yeah. Like the Prophet ﷺ, if you think about him, he understood the cultural context of his time and place. Like I'll give a perfect example, one that just came into mind. During the Battle of Hudaybiyah, not Battle of Hudaybiyah, Battle of Hunayn, sorry.
Okay.
The Prophet ﷺ, obviously that was after the conquest of Mecca. The Prophet ﷺ, obviously in the Battle of Hunayn, what happened is that a lot of the people, they were new Muslims, isn't it? So when the battle got intense, a lot of them started to run away. Like they started to basically run away. The Prophet ﷺ, look how he understood the cultural context of his time. The first thing he said was, I am, what did he say? I am the, أنا النبي لا كذب أنا ابن عبد المطلب. He said, I am the prophet, that is not a lie. I am the son of Abdul Muttalib. And some of the scholars, they said, why did the Prophet ﷺ specifically mention, I am the son of Abdul Muttalib? And the reason for it was, because Abdul Muttalib obviously wasn't the father, but they used to attribute sometimes to the grandfather as well if they were more prominent. But he said that because Abdul Muttalib was a famous Arab. He was well respected by everyone, and a lot of the people there were new Muslims. They just turned Muslim.
They knew him.
So that was the thing that drew them back towards the Prophet ﷺ, was his affiliation to Abdul Muttalib, not the fact that he was the Prophet.
He was the Prophet.
Yeah, interesting.
So look at the intelligence of the Prophet ﷺ. He understood the cultural context of that time, and that battle they won that battle, didn't they?
Yep.
After Hunayn, there was a lot of booty. And that one of the things that obviously that turned the tide in that favor was the Prophet ﷺ rallying people around him, and that's the way he did it.
Right.
Because he understood the cultural context
And he was
of the
able
people at that time.
to use the correct rhetoric for that time,
Exactly.
for that place.
Exactly.
And you're saying that for people who have are inclined to having those kind of questions and then want to, now that they're able to formulate those answers to those questions and they want to go ahead and talk about it in public, they need to know their context, their time, their place, and do these kind of readings and know the kind of philosophers that are going to be used by people on the opposite side.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If you're on the front lines, you have to. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't say like everyone needs to know it.
Sure.
It's not like entirely like essential. Obviously,
Okay.
everyone's going to have their different things. Like some people are going to be in traditional ilm, students of knowledge. That's very important as well. The Muslims need that. Some people are going to be in da'wah, calling non-Muslims and sometimes Muslims to Islam as well, answering doubts, that sort of thing. So for that, it's important. Other people are going to be working in law. Other people like yourselves are maybe going to be working in media. It's all important. Everyone has their role to play, and for that, everyone needs their knowledge. Like for example, if you told me now edit this video, I wouldn't have a clue how to do it. You're going to go home, you're going to edit it, and you're going to basically put it out to the people.
It's going to be on the
It's
side.
going to be us either.
I can see you in the background there. But yeah, so everyone's got their place to play, and obviously in order to play your part correctly, you need to have the correct knowledge.
Correct knowledge, correct tools. Okay,
Definitely.
so going back to what you were saying about purpose, how did you then apply that to your life? I mean, once you kind of answer that question to yourself that, okay, you know, I have this kind of purpose, right? How did you apply it in the sense that what did that drive you to wanting to do dentistry? Did that drive you to do those other things in your life because you knew that, okay, there's that purpose in my life there?
No, to be honest, no.
No.
I tell you what, that realization or that knowledge that humans must have a purpose, basically what it pushed me towards was more towards doing things for the sake of Allah, or trying to at least anyway.
Okay.
So
something tangible straight away. You could do that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but as in, you always hear like do it for the sake of Allah, akhi, fi sabilillah. But you never actually. It's not really a thing that you think a lot of people think about too deeply. But when you think about the fact that literally, if Allah wasn't there, everything else is completely irrelevant and pointless, then it makes you realize that, like, you've got no other option. Like, everything needs to be for that. Otherwise, life is just pointless. There's literally no point to it.
Okay.
So for me, it was more like that. It wasn't like it gave me purpose in dentistry or anything like that.
Yeah.
It made me see that dentistry or other things as a means to an end, which is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than basically going out and just doing it for the sake of it. Which is, I knew that theoretically already before, and I think everyone does, but realizing that everything else is completely void and irrelevant without it, it puts things into perspective for you.
You know, the reason why I think this is, I know you said it's not for everyone, these kind of discussions and delving into these topics, but I think that a lot of the young people, including ourselves, when you're growing up, you're exposed to a lot of things, and elderly people don't really realize that, because they've come maybe from different countries and they've spent lives working lots of hours in work, and their life is literally, they're khadims, they're just they're servants of, and they're providing for their families, yani. So they've got a purpose. They find their purpose through work, and they come home and they see their child at home sitting down on the sofa watching TV, and they're thinking, this guy has lost it. He's failing in life, okay? But what you realize in school is that you're kind of like exposed to different things, and you're made uncomfortable in certain things, and you're made comfortable in certain things. And this sort of like complexity needs to be addressed through the realm of philosophy. So understanding there's a purpose behind it, doing things for fi sabilillah, these kind of basic concepts need to be kind of like eased into the young people's minds so they can learn to navigate through this world themselves. It's like I always give examples based on my experiences, so it's always about the madrasa. But like, for example, like basically, like, you know, when you teach Quran, you do the qaida first, so you do the basic alif ba ta, and then you go through little words and stuff. And sometimes you can teach a method to the children, and most Asians get taught this method. And actually, I wasn't taught this method. I never went through that system. I came out. And so when I was started teaching it, I was thinking, wait, why am I teaching this? I don't know. Anyway, khalas. I don't tell them I didn't study that anyway. But anyway, so like I go through the letters and stuff, and it's like kha fatha kha, lam fatha lam, lam fatha la, khala, and then keep going through. So you teach that method to the students, and when you're not there, they can then read the Quran themselves. If they get stuck, they can break it down. Yeah? So you're giving them the ability to sort their own problems out, but with a mindset.
Yeah.
It's essentially a mindset.
It's like the principles.
Yeah. You give them the qawaid, you give them the basic principles and how to do it themselves. And I think that with hopefully this podcast and many other outlets as well doing this kind of stuff, hopefully the young people who are listening to this and are looking for a bit more oomph in their life, looking for a bit more purpose, they might just take this conversation very deeply and, you know, actually think about actually. And then what I started doing is I got like 3 boards. So I got in my bag I got 3 boards. So even when I tutor, I use them. And you probably saw me as well when I was rubbing it out. I had some stuff I was doing yesterday. So I like to compartmentalize things as well. So I like to actually look at my plan. I set like a 1-year plan, 5-year plan. Maybe that's a bit too. That's because I'm just looking for comfort, yani. But I do all these different things, and then I look at my life and I say, well, how am I going to get to this? How am I going to get to this? And is this the right? How do I actually have the right mindset towards doing this? You know, fi sabilillah, for example. And sadaqah, like for example, one of the teachers that I really hope you listen to this podcast, what I really look up to, he gave me advice on teaching. He said that, look, know the system. UK is so expensive. You can't live, you know, free to be there teaching for everything for free. It's not possible. You know, everything. The world runs on money, unfortunately. And so he said that have a certain class that you do sadaqat al-ilm. You do just purely for free, for the sake of barakah and sake of obviously for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then you have certain aspects that you do for money. So you go to teach, for example, in a format, in an actual setting with the resources and, you know, stuff like that. That requires teaching, and that will cost. You will get paid for that. But for the sadaqat al-ilm that you do in the masjid, you do it for free. And so what he's trying to instill in me is the concept of this knowledge isn't from you, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, basically. So like the reason why I mention this is because it kind of goes back towards the mindset of finding a purpose. And making sure that purpose is in our lives. Something that's tangible as well, something that you're actually doing and you can immediately see that this is something for Allah.
I think also another benefit from that is that knowing that if somebody now, you know, adopts an Islamic lifestyle, that it's not just being sort of, you know, super spiritual and giving up the dunya and purely doing everything for the sake of Allah, because that's where you've found your purpose. Actually, what your teacher is telling you that, you know, you be balanced. This life is dunya at the end of the day, and dunya runs in certain things, and that's money. And so you do things which will give you a wage, but you can also apply that to the purpose and do things which are purely fi sabilillah, and there's a balance here. Right? You know,
also to add to that, Imam Ghazali talks about this. I was economics, so in my final year dissertation, I wanted to look at Islamic economics. Not Islamic economics we see today, but how the scholars used economics. And Imam Ghazali, the Dr. Islahi, I think his name is Islahi.
Yeah, he's Pakistani scholar.
Yeah, he wrote on, he did one on Imam Ghazali, you read it?
I haven't read it, but I know
it's very small. And he talks about, and Imam Ghazali actually talks about this. He says that there shouldn't be too many people who do this. You know, they're called the zuhad.
Yeah. That's what I was looking for.
The ascetics.
Yeah, aesthetics. Yeah,
ascetics. And what they do is they exclude themselves. Yeah, they and he said, and subhanallah, when he said this, I didn't understand it. Now I understand it because I've been traveling, alhamdulillah. But anyway, I'll explain what he said. He said that there should only be a few amongst the whole Muslim society, generally speaking, that do this. I didn't understand why he said few, but he said the reason why he said it was a few. He said is because if everyone did it, the economy would completely capitulate. It would cease to exist. There would be no progress. Muslims will not have the incentive to go out to other lands to preach. They won't have the incentive to create their own initiatives and projects and actually expand the geographical boundaries. And there will be no incentive to be the what's the word? Khala fil ard, you know, like to be the dominions, the khalifas of the earth. Anyway. Now I know why. Because when people just choose to make themselves into a bubble, they will not integrate. They will not know the problems of what their children are facing. They will not know how to deal with these issues. Secondly, to add to that, I see the need for there to be people who just don't integrate at all. And that is, I believe that there's a certain sacred knowledge that you cannot let it be harmed by the dunya.
Okay.
Like for example, like hadith. If you go, like you know, in hadith, if you go to some hadith circles, you don't see them like looking normal. They look rough. They look different. They look, you know, and that's why they say the hadith scholars are the ones who live the poorest amongst us, because they've traveled. Well, they used to travel a lot. I'm not sure about now, but they travel a lot, and they preserve their knowledge through their lifestyle. So you do see a benefit behind their lifestyle. You see a benefit behind. You see a purpose behind that. So whenever I see like Salafi brothers and I see what they're trying to do, I mean, I can see the some of the wisdom they're trying to keep with that. They're trying to keep a very simple life so they can preserve their knowledge.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about that just fully because I don't want to talk about. It's not the right place to talk about. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah. So just to jump back into it. So after purpose, what was the next point you were going to make?
So we talked about...
We saw good and evil, we talked about purpose.
Okay, so the two that I think go together nicely are basically the first person I.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
What's your take on it? What do you think?
I'll
tell you, go on.
Because I never, until you said that, it never clocked in my mind that why we have an attribution to ourselves like that, why we kind of look inwards and we talk about ourselves. And we kind of try and take we take ourselves as an individual into the world. Do you know what I'm saying? And when you said that, I was like,
no, that's not what I mean. I mean it even more than that.
Okay.
I mean it the fact that the ability to even use the word I, it doesn't make sense if you take Allah out of the picture.
Okay, go on.
Okay.
Why?
The reason I say that.
My mind's gonna get blown.
No, it's not even that. To be honest, I'll be honest with you.
Because in the verse, Allah says, خَلَقَنَهِ فَهُوَ يَهْدِينَ. Like Allah, when Musa is talking about that he created me and he guided me. Is that what you're saying?
He said no, right? He said no.
It's much more simple than that. In Islam, obviously, we believe we have like a soul, isn't it? A ruh. Under another worldview, where you take Allah out of the picture, everything is just mechanical. It's just, as I said, everything just physical atoms bumping into each other.
Yeah.
So that means, under that worldview, that me as a human being, I'm just a collection of atoms bumping into each other.
Yeah.
Things just pass through me like a string, like everything that stretches back all the way to the Big Bang, or whatever, even if there was stuff before that we don't know. Even if the Big Bang happened, Allahu A'lam, we don't know. We can talk about the philosophy of science later if you want to. But yeah, so let's take that as a given that the Big Bang happened, whatever. Everything that happened as a sequence of events from then up until now is just one thing bumping into another, one thing leading to another.
Sure.
So that means that even us as humans, we're just part of that chain of sequence of events. So everything we do, everything we think can be traced back to the Big Bang. Every neuron that fires in our brain.
Yeah.
So does that mean that I'm really making decisions myself? Does that really mean that I'm actually a person, or am I just like a medium through which something travels, like a clear cup that light just passes through? Do you get it?
Yeah.
So am I really making my own decisions? Am I really me, or is everything just a sequence of events that goes back to the Big Bang and everything just passes through me in that way? How can I say truthfully that I'm I then?
Yeah. But then
Go ahead.
People will kind of say like, well, regardless of that, let's say I have that worldview, but regardless of that, I'm still living now, so therefore, like, whatever I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna do now. So I'm just gonna focus on that.
No, that's true. I would accept someone to say that, but then I'd say that's not justified under your worldview. You can't. But as I just explained, you can't justify using the term I under your worldview.
Okay.
You can say that, but you're ignoring the worldview against on which your whole ideology is based. Your ideology does not allow for you to even use the term I. I feel this, I feel that. No, you don't feel this, you don't feel that. The sequence of events which led to you makes you feel that.
Okay.
Subhanallah.
Go on.
Would you say, like, for example, the concept of the ruh itself?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. The concept of a ruh itself is what gives you the ability to say me. I love this, I like this, I don't like this, I don't like that.
Okay.
If you don't have that concept, if you don't have that, everything that you believe, everything that you say you think you like, you think you don't like, it's nothing. It's literally just one thing bumping into another, one neuron, if we don't, as I said, like philosophy of science, at the moment we think it's neurons, one neuron firing, hitting something else to connect to each other, and then the next thought happens. So every thought is just dependent on what happens before. Yeah. Everything just passes through you.
So with the ruh, you're saying that the ruh has ilm al-ghayb as well. So
the ruh, of course, وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ.
Yes.
They asked the Prophet ﷺ, tell us about the ruh, and he was told to say by Allah, I don't have any knowledge of it except just a little.
So for example, you could say that sort of exclusivity that Allah gave you that ruh, and you don't know about it, only Allah gave.
Only Allah knows about it.
And
But we know that
we know a little bit, obviously.
we know that it exists because we have, naturally you think I, me.
Sure.
If I wanted to go for that worldview, and if that worldview was correct, an atheistic worldview, take God out of the equation, then your natural inclination to say I cannot fit into that.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't fit in nicely.
Right.
So all of these ideas, these concepts, as I said, believing in good and evil, believing in purpose, believing that I as a person exists, they don't fit in easily into an atheistic worldview. They fit in very nicely into an Islamic or any theistic worldview. We can talk about later why Islam is obviously more superior to other religions, but generally speaking, they fit very nicely into a theistic worldview. Leading on from that is the concept of free will. If free will, this really is really interesting, because a lot of people, one of the main criticisms, and I thought about this for a long time, one of the things that people who are not religious or don't believe in religion, they say, how can you have free will? If Allah knows everything.
Yeah. So it ties into qadr.
Yeah, it ties into qadr very nicely as well. So if Allah knows everything, then how can you have free will?
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that under their worldview, if you take the ruh out of it, you really don't have free will.
At all.
At all, literally,
Right,
nothing at all.
Yeah, because you're just a sequence of events.
You're just a sequence of events that goes from things, nothing you
You're
think
not
or
actually
nothing.
being an individual, purely being an
Exactly.
individual.
There is no such thing as free will, and this is actually it's a philosophical school of thought. The majority of philosophers nowadays actually believe in it. It's called determinism. The opposite to it is libertarianism.
Right.
Determinism is the main school of thought. When you look into the academic works of it, people, this is the thing, the people in general, they don't understand this. Yeah, majority of philosophers nowadays, they believe in determinism.
I didn't know that.
They believe in that because they can't solve that problem. Once you take God out of the equation, there is really nothing stopping it from everything just being a sequence of events.
Right.
Some people have tried to say, for example, like, quantum mechanics comes into it, and quantum indeterminacy or whatever. But even that, quantum indeterminacy is still just like physical matter. There's nothing past that. So if physical matter is controlling me, that just means that everything I do boils down to what that physical matter is doing. So there's no ultimate I that builds it all. It's just what those things are doing at the base level eventually build into what I do. But there is no ultimate I that overall encapsulates all of it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a bit, some of these concepts are a bit difficult to understand, but I'm not sure if that needs any further clarification.
So I think that clarification then needs to be on that person's answer on how could there be free will if Allah knows everything then? Because I can understand the concept of free will from what you just said in the concept of having the I and having the soul, but then the other thing is the qadr, right? And how that would fit in.
Are you asking me about qadr?
Yeah.
Okay, you're asking me.
About how that would fit in with the free will in terms of that question that you said that people usually pose.
Okay, I understand that. So first of all, I want to make clear that you have to understand firstly that the other worldview is not a solution to it, because we already explained that worldview cannot answer it, and that's acknowledged by people who are not religious. People in the academic sphere, majority of them believe in that. There are people who try to basically put between the both libertarianism and determinism. Some people do try to basically put them together in some way, but none of the
ulama generally like.
Sorry?
Ulama generally like.
No, the ulama do it, but it's possible because we have the concept of a ruh. Without the concept of a ruh, it's not possible. And that's why I'm saying on the academic level, the people who don't believe in God, people in an academic Western sphere, when they try and put these two things together, determinism and libertarianism, they can't. There's no one's come up with a solution to do it, and it actually seems impossible. So the Islamic narrative, obviously, this is not me saying, this is what our scholars have said, is that the ruh at the end of the day is from ilm al-ghayb. We don't understand basically how it works. We know that Allah, in short, it comes down to, we know that Allah has told us that we have free will. The ruh is something we don't understand because it's ilm al-ghayb. If we don't understand it, how can we say, oh, it doesn't make sense? Wait, let me try to think of it. Okay, look, that argument is based on the fact that there's a contradiction between free will, Allah's knowledge, and us having free will.
That's generally what they say.
Okay, fine. I would say that a contradiction can only be possible if you have full knowledge of both things. But we don't have full knowledge of the ruh, and neither do you have full knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom. So when you put the two things together, you can't even deduce that there's a
you don't even have an argument to start with in the first place.
Because there's such a gap in knowledge between you and Allah's knowledge, and there's such a gap in knowledge of you and the ruh. Yeah, that's what I would say. That's a simple way to do it.
Okay.
The scholars, obviously, they've gone into more detail about it. There's other analogies that you can give
even
as
the
well.
qadr itself is still.
What about it?
It's some of the aspects of qadr is still ilm al-ghayb as well.
Ilm al-ghayb. All of qadr, is a lot of it is ilm al-ghayb. The Prophet ﷺ told us that. I don't know if it was the Prophet ﷺ who told us or one of the people who came after, but they said that whoever goes into qadr, they're going to end up disbelieving in their religion, basically.
You know, even in Islamic history, this was a big problem.
So you're saying that the Islamic worldview, when it comes to combining sort of that understanding with determinism and liberalism, is much more sound than sort of the atheistic
because
worldview.
it offers a solution.
It offers a solution.
Whereas that worldview does not offer a solution. So you have no free will. You have no concept of I even.
Sure.
To even use the term I would make completely no sense at all.
Sorry, to elaborate on the I aspect, you're simply saying that, like, you doing your things yourself.
No, I'm saying the feeling that you are a person.
And in control.
And there's something inside of you, you're in control. There's a me. There's a thing, for example, there's a thing called Asim who loves this.
So for example,
that is non-existent.
So even
you're like a number. You're not a number. You're a person. So like, imagine if you were like 1, 2, 3, like, but you're trying to say no, I'm not 1 or 2. I'm me.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
So if you right now, you feel like an agent. You have your own will. You can do what you want. You have your own feelings inside that are personal to you.
Thought patterns.
Your thought patterns, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's fine if you have a ruh. Yeah.
That's
fine. That makes sense if you have a ruh.
Yeah.
Because Allah has given you that.
Because Allah has given you that.
Yeah.
If you take the ruh out of it and you try and now have that worldview and understand those concepts without having the ruh inside, it doesn't make sense anymore. Because everything just passes through you, as I said. Everything is just a sequence of events going back to the beginning. It's just a sequence of events.
Okay.
So nothing, the concept of me, to even say I like this.
Yeah.
What's you? Define you under. Okay, let me put it this way. Define you under that worldview. Pretend now you're a guy who doesn't believe in God. Define me.
So I'm in charge of my own decisions, you know.
Are you really?
Yeah, and then, like, let's say me, I pick up this coffee.
Yeah.
I chose to do that. It wasn't a sequence of events, you know.
It was a sequence of events because of everything is physics, breaks down to law of physics. Everything goes back to the Big Bang. So those sequence of events led you to pick that up. You didn't choose to pick that up.
You're saying the Big Bang led me to pick this up. This coffee.
Yes. Everything that is a sequence of events that goes back to that. Everything is just cause and effect that leads you to this moment.
Chemical reactions.
Chemical reactions. By the way, you know this. I'm giving you a very simplistic. There are some people that basically even deny cause and effect. There are, for example, there was a philosopher called David Hume. He actually
was he a nutter as well? He was a nutter, right? In terms of his belief in afterlife and stuff. Was that someone else?
I'm not sure, man. I don't know. I'm not sure. He didn't believe in Allah, he didn't believe in these things, but he was one of the people who tried to deny cause and effect, and the basis on which he did it was that he said you can't prove it. Everything to him came down to proof. You have to be able to prove it.
What do you think about that? That's also something atheists use a lot. You can't prove God exists. Empirically speaking, you can't. And obviously, I know there are lots of refutations towards it. What would the easiest answer for you to answer that?
I would say that the fact that you're even deserving proof, asking for proof, is a proof in itself. And I'll say this why this moves on to segue of the next thing. The wanting to find out the truth.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one.
The wanting to find out the truth.
Yeah.
This is also a part of the fitrah. People naturally, like for example me, what set me on this journey?
Yeah.
What set you said on your journey as well, was the want and the desire, that internal desire. You can't explain it. No one gives that to you. You just wanted to find out the truth on your own. What is it that drives people towards the truth? Okay? And I'd say that only comes from Allah. There's no other explanation for it. And the reason I say that is because if you now take yourself again into that worldview, I'm taking myself into that worldview for every single thing because I want to contrast it. If you put yourself in that worldview, all you really have at the moment, their current theory is evolution by natural selection. Yeah. Different mechanisms for it, Darwinian evolution, there's different mechanisms for it, whatever. But really, the wanting to find the truth and the ability to seek truth doesn't fall into it at all. It all comes down to survival and reproduction. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Before I talk about that, I'll talk about something else. The ability to have reason. I don't know if you've heard about this before.
I thought that was the same thing, no?
So so this is one of they kind of fit into each other a bit. The ability to have reasoning faculties that lead you to truth.
Yeah.
that in itself is evidence for Allah. So the fact that you even able to ask the questions, what is proof?
Yeah.
It means you understand what a proof is. It means you understand what reason is. The fact that you, for example, you know that if I walk from here to here, I'll end up there. That's reason.
But some will argue and say that, well, that's just an evolutionary pattern.
I'll get to that. I'm going to get to that.
That our brains have become more sophisticated to be able to understand these kind of things.
Sure, I'll get to that. Okay. But the ability to have reasoning faculties, again, it comes down to this ability to have free will, again, and the ruh as well. Reasoning is based on your ability to basically decide what is right between what is correct, as in terms of what is the truth between one thing and what is false between the other thing.
Yeah.
That means that you have to be able to make a decision between one and the other. You need to be free to make a decision between one thing and another thing.
Okay.
You follow me so far?
Yeah.
If that's the case, that means that, again, it comes down to this ability to have free will and to have I. If everything's just a sequence of events, if everything just is based on these physical interactions at the base level, that means you don't really have a decision to say this is the truth and this is false. What you're driven by is those chemical reactions or whatever it is at the base level, that sequence of events at the base level. Yeah. And that is never, that it might sometimes lead you to what the truth is, but sometimes it might lead you to what something false.
So basically there's a level of imperfection here that's stopping you from actually finding those purpose behind your answers. That, for example, like
it's not a guided pattern, basically.
It's not a guided pattern. Things just roll on, one to the other, one to the other. So that means that sometimes you might end up at the truth.
Yes.
Sometimes you might not end up at the truth. The physical reality of what's actually happening under that worldview has no impact or no care for what the truth is.
Yeah.
It doesn't give two monkeys about what the truth actually is, basically. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that means that under that worldview, can we even trust our own minds to even arrive at the truth?
Right.
What you're thinking is the truth might not be the truth. It's probably just a physical sequence of events that leads you to this understanding of what the truth is, but it's not actually the truth. It's just a falsehood, but you're made to think it's the truth by that sequence of events that's led you there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So even your ability to reason, to say this is right, that's wrong. I don't mean like in a moral way, this is right, that's wrong. I mean in terms of this is actually the reality of how things are, and this is not the reality of how things are. You're not able to do that without a ruh. You are not able to do that if you take on an atheistic worldview, and this was pointed out by another philosopher. You know the guy who... Go.
Could you clarify on that bit? So, for example, you said without a ruh, you can't do that. You can't really use a reason. Because
this comes down to the ability to have free choice between one thing or another.
Okay, but
it ties into that as well.
Ruh, as in you being aware that you have a ruh, or you just being like, for example,
having it because it ties into what was said before about being an individual. It's only possible if you have a ruh, and so for you to be able to reason, it also falls within that, because if you are, I feel like you're like judging me.
No, you're explaining
have I understood it? Have I not? Yeah.
Should I tell you something? This isn't me coming up with these ideas. A lot of the Islamic scholars before our time had these thoughts as well. It's like it shows you that we're actually standing on the shoulders of giants. It's not us who came up with these ideas. But sorry, you were saying.
So being able to reason and everything like that, it's because you have a ruh, because you are a person, you're an individual
who's able to decide this way or that way.
Yeah, you're able to
whether
decide.
You're Muslim or not.
Whether you're a Muslim
or not. Exactly.
Yes.
It's natural. That was
my question. Okay.
Yeah, everybody has this. This is the fitrah. Everybody has a fitrah.
Because if you don't, then it's an unguided pattern of kind of chemical reactions that don't have a purpose to why they're reacting in one way or another. So they're not going for a particular direction because it's just a mechanical process. Whereas with a ruh, it's something guided from Allah that is trying to give you a particular pattern, a particular reasoning.
Yeah. So that ability to actually reason and decide, like this is the reality of how things actually are, this is not the reality of how things actually are, that's really not possible under a worldview where you take God out of the picture. And this was actually pointed out. You know the guy who wrote Chronicles of Narnia? C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
He's the one who made this point most recently.
He was Christian, wasn't he?
He was a Christian. He was an atheist, and then he converted to Christianity.
Wow. Yeah.
And he was the person who made this sort of this argumentation famous in the West. As I said, like it's not something new. And you know, like that draws me to the ayah in the Quran. I think it's in Surah Al-Zariyat, وفي الأرض آيات للموقنين وفي أنفسكم أفلا تبصرون وفي أنفسكم أفلا تبصرون. That like sums up the whole like idea of the fitrah. For me, that's when I thought about it. It's like Allah's saying, and in the earth, like externally, there's signs. And we haven't even talked about those yet, by the way.
Yeah.
And in the earth, there's signs. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, and in yourselves, do you not see? And all we've been talking about so far is just the self, the fitrah, what it means to be a person. So
even that could be evidence itself.
Exactly. That's a more powerful evidence. Should I tell you why? It's a more powerful evidence because everyone experiences it. No one would ever deny that I am a person. No one would ever deny this is right, that's wrong. Some people do, but then they, like for example Nietzsche, he denied it, but then you fall into so many problems. For example, like if I come back to that again, how could you objectively then say, if I come now with a hammer and I smash a chocolate bunny, and then I come now and I smash Asim's head in with a hammer, how can you objectively say that smashing that bunny is any different to smashing your face in with a hammer? There's no difference because number one, there's no objectivity, number one. There's no such thing as I. There's no such thing as good and bad. There's no such thing as truth. It's all just atoms moving around at the base level. How could you even make the statement, oh, what you did was so bad? This is why it really frustrates me when people come and they criticize Islam from a moral perspective, when they don't have a religion in the first place. On what basis are you criticizing Islam?
Then how are some of these worldviews then moving towards certain ethical standards of maybe for example utilitarianism, or using the harm principle in their moral ethics?
To be honest, I'll tell you what it is.
How could they move towards that?
How could they move to?
How could they? So you're saying that their worldview, it doesn't make sense for them to have any moral anchor, but then they're arguing.
No,
that
they have a moral anchor because that's the fitrah. That's what I'm saying. But they can't justify it under their worldview.
Right.
You can only justify it if you believe in Allah.
So they have it in them, but they just don't know.
Exactly.
They deny
you know that literally is the definition of kafir. You know, what does kafir mean? It means you cover up. What are you covering up? You're covering up your natural belief in Allah. That's what kafir is. They have all these things in them already, but they choose to cover them up, or just turn a blind eye to them. Basically, that's what it is.
And then so for them to say that, okay, well now we think our ethical standards go by sort of whatever is harmful in society or harms others, then we're not going to do it. But other than that, we're going to do it, right?
But then
that can be misguided.
Of course,
right?
because you might find that what one person defines as harm is completely different to what another person defines as harm.
So how do they become misguided if they're meant to have a concept of good and bad from their fitrah then?
This comes, Sheikh Abu Ubaid, he made an excellent point on this. No, honestly, the fitrah is basically what you have naturally in you. So there's certain things that you know are good and bad, but then revelation, wahi comes and it guides the fitrah.
It's because of the hadith, the Prophet says,
that's what it is basically.
Istafti qalbak. Yes, ask your heart, for matters like you have to inspect yourself. So Allah gives you the ability to use your heart. Maybe you make mistakes along the way. A good example, Ibrahim alayhi salam. When he was looking for God, seeking God. I don't want to go through the passage because some people might not agree with the tafsir of that. But generally speaking, that he was questioning, who's God. Or he was. Some say that he was rhetorically questioning. So he knew it wasn't God. He was mocking. But anyway, the point being is that there was a level of thought that he was questioning something and it was coming from within. Essentially, isn't it? So the ruh is exactly.
So, I kind of lost my. No, I was thinking about evolution. Have you got anything?
No.
So you asked about evolution, the evolution thing.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, So some people would say we are evolved to track the truth or whatever. But I would say that that's not true. That's not true because the ability to track the truth and go after the truth is completely separate to the ability to survive, or the inclination to survive. Sometimes they are the same, sometimes they're not. I'll give an example. Actually, one brother, he made a good example. He said that, sometimes a butterfly, maybe, or some sort of insect, maybe, they will find that they think in their mind that everything that's red, every red berry is poisonous. so they avoid every single red berry. That's not the truth, because some red berries might not be poisonous. So that means that they've had a false belief, the insect or whatever it is,
that they've
internalized and they're acting upon, but at the same time they're still surviving. False belief, survival. So it shows that the surviving and having true beliefs, sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. So that means it comes back down to the fact that you can never be certain under that worldview if what you're believing is the truth or whether it's not. If you know, I'm scaling it up quite a bit, but in reality, I've given a very simple example, but there's no reason why you can't scale it up. There's no impediment to that.
Ibn Taymiyyah talks about this in a different matter. He says, rahimahullah, he says, a person who's jahil, but does something that's in line with Islam, he's wrong.
Yeah.
Because the way he arrived at it was wrong. So he's basically saying that even though the person could be right, the fact that his way he was doing it doesn't justify them. But it's kind of like basically saying that even if he was like, it was a hit and miss basically, isn't it? So kind of like what you were saying, I guess.
Exactly, that hit and miss, exactly. Sometimes you might arrive at it, sometimes it's not, but you can never guarantee that what you're thinking is the truth.
For example, like, you know, when the Qibla was in Jerusalem, Aqsa, and obviously the Prophet wanted it to be in the other location, Makkah Mukarramah. And so, like, you could say that you could position it in such a way where the Qibla is both the same direction. You can do that, isn't it?
From Medina?
Not from Medina, but from other places. You can position, you can position it from a certain place. But that doesn't mean that they're both from the same Qibla all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm trying to think outside the box.
So, were there any other points on the fitrah? That was the last one.
I think that that's what I've thought about. That's what I've thought about. But the thing I'd like to point out is that people, when they ask for proof, they say, prove that Allah exists, or prove this, prove that. I'd say, I don't have to prove it, you have to prove that he doesn't, because my worldview, everything that it means to be a human being, everything that it means to want to go after the truth, to want to do all of these things, they fall well under my worldview. They literally do not fall at all into your worldview. There was actually one more thing as well, the ability to and the want to go after beauty and go after truth. You know, when I said go after truth as well, just something that came to mind. Some people, they will go after the truth, even if it means that they're going to die.
Okay.
For example, no, that's not what I mean. For example, scientists, some people, they will launch themselves into space on a spaceship when they know there's a chance they might die, just so that they can discover. They want to seek the truth. They want to see what's on the moon, see what's in these places. That goes completely against wanting to survive and reproduce.
Right.
So there's even things that go against that narrative as well. The ability to want to track truth. There was one more thing I mentioned as well, was beauty. Beauty, as well.
That's interesting.
Beauty is basically our ability to see beauty. Some people, they'll go up mountains, they'll climb mountains, they'll expend all of this energy. Yeah. I'm sure you've done as well. Like some brothers, they go like on charity walks up Snowdon and stuff like that. They'll expend all of that energy, all of that time, money, food, going up there just so they can go to the top and see something. Why? Why is that?
So you know what's interesting?
Humans are outcome based this way. We want it.
Why is that, sorry?
Humans are naturally outcome based.
What's the outcome? What's the material outcome?
I mean, some people just do it so they can tick it off. Climb this.
Okay, but why?
What's that? Yeah, why is it that we feel so, like, when we
obliged
see that,
to do it? Why do you feel wow?
Yeah.
How do you feel wow?
Yeah.
And why are you even doing that in the first place?
Personal utility, just,
Okay.
Satisfaction.
Okay, but why does that satisfy you? Talk about it now from an atheistic worldview. Why would that satisfy you? It's got nothing to do with surviving, nothing to do with reproduction. Why does it satisfy you?
Because the way that the earth is created is pleasing to the eye. It's beautiful.
Wait, so you believe it's created even though you're atheist?
Everything is created, but the thing is there a creator who's uncreated? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that when you go to the top of that mountain, you're looking at this the view, that beautiful view, the sunset. You've expended energy. You've expended time, you've expended money, you've expended food, all to just see something.
Plato says on this. Plato, he says that that the things that we see in our world are like a shadow of what is in the world of beauties, which is like the ultimate.
Oh, is that the analogy of the cave?
The objective world, right? Yeah. Analogy of the cave. That there's an objective world out there, and whatever we have in this earth has come down from there. Basically, what we have in this world, what we have as ourselves, has come down from there, and it's like a shadow, or like a kind of like a shadow of what's over there. So when you experience beauty, you you are so attracted to it because it is reminding you of what has basically come from
See,
the
when
world.
when I hear that, to me that just sounds like a substitute for
Yeah,
Allah.
yeah, no. So that's exactly what I want to go on.
Yeah.
The way that is explained when I was studying this, it's like this is just a substitute exactly to, the Creator Allah and Allah giving you a soul that has come, that is like something which has come from Him that He fashioned Himself and that has been put into you, and it's the soul that wants to go back to and has an urge to go back to a place from where it came. It's just this total substitute for that. Is how I feel.
No, definitely 100%.
Yeah.
There's another thing that comes into fitrah as well, and actually this is what the Quran explicitly mentions. I forgot to actually mention this before. This is what the Quran explicitly mentions. It gives the example of people on a ship, and those people are out at sea.
Yeah.
Then the ship basically it gets shipwrecked, or it's about to be basically downed. It's about to be sunk. And then all of a sudden, the people on the ship, they start making dua to Allah. They say, Allah, save us from this, and we'll never go back to what we were doing before. And then when they get to the land, they go back to what they were doing before. So that also, the other thing that falls under the fitrah is that immediate thing to go towards Allah, and that immediate thing to basically ask Allah for help. All of these things fit into it. And some...
To kind of, because we're going to break for Dhuhr, and I think we'll kind of wrap up, We'll wrap up there. What I want to ask you as a wrap-up point is your journey into philosophy and having these, questions answered and things like that. What has that given you as a benefit? What did that practically give back to you? And how did it satisfy you and make you feel like you're actually doing something with this now? And it's, did it give you some sort of Iman benefit? Did it give you some sort of dunya benefit? What after doing all of that, what did you get out of it, basically?
For me, it made me appreciate Islam a lot more. Because it made me realize, like, everything else, everything else apart from Islam, everything else aside from doing things for Allah. And I'm not saying that when I do things, obviously your intention still sometimes gets messed up. I'm saying if I'm holding myself to the highest standard, theoretically, this is what it's done for me, basically. But I'm not saying that when I do things, my intentions are always 100% on point, as with anyone.
But you know that it's...
But you know that...
criterion.
Yeah, exactly, sort of like that. It's basically made me appreciate Islam a lot more because it's made me realize that everything else apart from it is fruitless, pointless. And it's as if Allah says in the Quran, I can't remember the ayah, did you think that we created you as just play? I forgot the ayah exactly. So...
We need Muhammad here to help us.
أفحسبتم أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون. That's it, everything else apart from it is play. And I was actually with a colleague the other day at work. It was my last day at the place I was working at the other day. And one of my colleagues that I was working with, alhamdulillah, the place I was working with, they were very understanding of Islam and Muslims. So they were very accommodating for that. Alhamdulillah, I was blessed with that. But one of my colleagues, what she said to me at the end of the year, because they always see us, see me, and there's a few other brothers there as well. They see us, praying and stuff like that. So they know, what Muslims do. One of the things she said to me, I wish I had, in sort of I'm paraphrasing a bit, but I wish I had what you had, something to that.
Yeah, non-Muslims.
Why do you think she said that?
You know what she said to me? She said to me, with us, we kind of, we go out, we have a good time, we get drunk, we drink sometimes we don't even like drinking, but then at the end of it, we're not satisfied with it. We just, her exact words were, there's not much to us. Wallahi, I actually felt sorry for her when she said that to me. Wallahi, I actually felt sorry for her. May Allah guide her and guide the people who have that kind of feelings to them towards Islam. But that for me, when she said that to me, it was one of my last days of work there as well. When she said that to me, it made me realize, subhanAllah, Islam in that way is such a blessing. It gives you that purpose, it gives you everything. One thing, can I add one thing as well to the fitrah as well, is, when people say, and this is what Muslims I think get dragged into a lot of the time, when people say, what's your proof? I'd say,
as I said, the proof is not the proof. You don't need to give the proof. The burden of proof is on them because of all the things we've discussed. That's number one. The second thing is, it's not that we don't have external proofs. The Quran even says, as I said, وَفِي الْأَرْضِ آيَاتٌ لِلْمُوقِنِينَ. There are external proofs, like for example, the creation of the heavens and the earth. And the Quran talks about this a lot. Creations of the heavens and the earth. All of these other things that are external to the self. Yeah. But the fitrah is more powerful than these things. Because of the fact that no one can deny it. Everyone has these feelings.
Could you say that the attack is more on the fitrah now?
No, the attack, because the general masses of people, when they say proof, they understand proof to mean what can I see, what can I feel. And when they ask for proof, they're asking about like the outside world.
There's a confusion between themselves.
Yes, but I would say that is one type of proof. The other type of proof, which is a lot more powerful, is the fitrah, because everyone experiences it. So there's both aspects to it. You can use both, but the methodology of the scholars has always been that to go with the fitrah more. If you read any of the scholars of the past, they talk about the fitrah a lot more, and they never say Allah. There must be a God because there's a universe. They never say that. They say that you should already know there's a God because you have the fitrah. So these things sometimes, external things, sometimes they do help people to come to Islam. Sometimes they do help people to reinforce their iman. But they're secondary to the fitrah. They're always secondary to the fitrah, because you can see all of these things, you can know all of these things, but if your fitrah is corrupt, or if you want to basically cover it over, you can. Yeah, so the fitrah is always the primary thing, because it's the thing that everything else is built upon. It's the first principles upon which everything else is built. So it's the more powerful of the two.
I think on that point, subhanAllah, it's a good point to end on. Jazakallah khair, brother Ayman, for coming down. Appreciate that. Is there so? Shake your hand, yeah?
Well, I'm the host, bro.
Is there anywhere where people wanted to maybe look more into these kind of things, or maybe even hear your thoughts on it more? Is there like your blog? Do you wanna like say any of those kind of things, or is there any other than yourself? Is there anything you recommend people towards?
I would recommend people towards the brothers at Ayira. They do a lot of good work.
Imran Hussein's
all of them are very good. Mashallah, tabarakallah. I would recommend the brothers to listen to them. They do in this topic. I think they're leading it in the UK at the moment. Actually, in the world as well, because they're international now as well. But in the UK, they're the biggest. I think they're the biggest body doing it. So I'd direct brothers towards them. Brother Sabur as well. I'm sure a lot of you know him as well. He's got his own YouTube channel as well. I think it's called Darwinian Delusions. That is very good as well. He's got a lot of lectures on there. Talks about evolution. That's his area of expertise. So I direct people towards those as well.
Jazakallah khair. And for the listeners to remember to follow our social medias. We've got Ibn Battuta's Boat on all the different social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on our website as well. You can visit to listen to these episodes and download them. And also a shout out to Huda Television, who are the, alhamdulillah, the key kind of sponsors and key supporters and promoters of our work that have given us the studio space. Please check out them on social media, visit their website. They have a lot of good content that even, I think sometimes cover some of these kind of discussions. Their shows on Huda TV. So, alhamdulillah, definitely do check them out. Jazakallah khairan.
تقل قد ذهبت أربابه كل من سار على الدرب وصل في ازدياد العلم إرغام العدا وجمال العلم إصلاح العمل جمل المنطق بالنحو فمن يحرم الإعراب بالنطق اختبل انظم الشعر ولازم مذهبي في اطراح الرد لا تبغي